On this week's episode, it's our best and worst of movies for 2018 as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Joe Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. But it wouldn't be a pop culture cosmos without my good friend. He is a film aficionado for Humanica Media. You gotta listen to Humanica Media. You gotta check out everything that's going on today at humanicamedia.com, Humanica Media on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and so much more. It is my good friend, and he's going to be crashing hard by the end of this episode. It is Josh Peterson. Stay alive, my friend. Stay alive. Drink that Red Bull.
Yeah, and then I won't go to sleep. So I'm good, man. I'm good. Let's talk about some movies.
All right, we are here today to talk about our favorite movies plus our not so favorite movies this year in 2018. I want to start off by saying thank you to everyone listening out there to our recent PCC Multiverse. There are over 100 episodes there now, so it's truly great to be not only 100 episodes at PCC Multiverse, but over 100 here as well in the Pop Culture Cosmos. And it's all because of you out there listening to us, and we cannot thank you enough for doing so. But we are here to be talking the best and worst in cinema for 2018. There's going to be no guests on today. It's just going to be Josh and I talking about our best and worst in 2018 for films. Plus, at the back end, I also forgot to mention that Josh is going to be talking about his greatest moments in pop culture for 2018. He's going to be running them down real quickly as well. Plus, I might even throw a couple myself. So, looking forward to talking about that as well. But it all starts off with our best in movies in 2018 because there's so much to talk about when there is movies out there galore that we've come across, we've seen, we've sat through. Some are good, some are not so good, some are right in the middle. So, Josh, for your number 10 film of 2018, I got to hear it, man. We'll go one at a time. You go your number 10, I'll go my number 10 after that. So, your number 10 film of 2018.
I got A Quiet Place. I like the movie, love what they did with it, but there are just so many other movies out there that I liked better this year that it almost didn't make the list. So, Quiet Place was good. John Krasinski, great directorial debut. He did a good job working. The sound editing was fantastic, and not as good as Blade Runner 2049, but it's still pretty good. Yeah, so that's my number 10. I don't know where they're gonna go with the sequel. Allegedly, one's in development, but this was a movie that went places that the horror genre has not gone before, and the horror genre has been everywhere. So that's my number 10. What is your number 10?
Well, first off, I want to tell you that no movie on this list for me touched me in the way that Blade Runner 2018 did. Although that was kind of weird me saying that because there was a kind of digital touching scene in there. So maybe I should rephrase that. No movie was as good as Blade Runner 2084. Was it
2049.
2049? Okay. As Blade Runner 2049. No movie was as good as Blade Runner 2049, if I can get the years straight. Because I'm playing through a game called 2084 now, that's why. No movie was as good as Blade Runner 2049. I'll tell you what, that was an awesome movie in 2017 that just was better than anything out there in 2018, but not by much. There were some great films out there, and I'll start off the list at number 10 for me is okay. Number 10 for me is going to be, well, first of all, I want to give some honorable mentions. Honorable mentions for me is going to be honorable mentions for me is going to be Game Night and also Won't You Be My Neighbor. So those two, Won't You Be My Neighbor, which is a biography of Mr. Rogers. That one is a really good film. And also as well, Game Night, which for me was a surprisingly good comedy from the folks out there that, if you're interested in Justin Bateman going out there in one of his films, this is a very good film to follow, and that was Game Night. But number 10 on my list is Power of Grayskull, the definitive history of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. That for me is number 10. It is one of the best type of documentaries that I've seen over the course of the past couple years. And I've seen quite a few because Rob McCallum Films has done quite a few. Missing Mom, Nintendo Quest, those have been outstanding documentaries. Won't You Be My Neighbor was also an outstanding documentary as well. So of those, I think right there, Power of Grayskull, which Rob McCallum played a part in directing. I want to congratulate him, plus the other directors and everybody involved with the Power of Grayskull, the definitive history of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Slight issues when it comes to maybe too much time spent on the film process and not enough on the TV show itself. But other than that, it is truly a very concise, well thought out, well displayed out as far as told story, as far as the background of the toys, how they became a hit, how they came to be, the trouble at between Kenner and Mattel, and all that as far as how that came to be, as far as the whole He-Man saga, how Star Wars fits into it. All that backstory was really fun to tell, and it told it in a concise 90-minute story that I just really truly enjoyed from beginning to end. I want to give my shout out to number 10, The Power of Grayskull, the definitive history of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which you can catch right now on Netflix. All right, my friend, I want to hear your number 9. Your number 9 on your list of the top 10 films of 2018.
Okay, so you and I are probably gonna differ on this one. I got Deadpool 2. Well, Deadpool 2 was good. I liked the first one better because I wasn't quite sure what to expect going in. And this one kind of just did the same thing that Deadpool 1 did, but not as good. They had kind of the jokes kind of went too far in some places. Like they stopped being funny, like 5 minutes after they should have stopped making them. Like there's a lot of that in there. I love Ryan Reynolds. I love the plot line with Cable and all that, and that was really cool. And I love the X Force, and everyone's dying as they're jumping out of the airplane. That's really funny. But yeah, I just it didn't hit me the way that Deadpool 1 did. That cool action, uh, bad mouthing Merc. Deadpool 2 is just more of the same, and they didn't really take the movie in a place that made it rise above its predecessor. So I liked it, but not enough to put it in my top 5.
I didn't like it at all comparative to what the first one was because I'll put it this way. My wife and I, we actually watched it at home. We never caught it at the theaters, but when we watched Deadpool for the first time, we were busting up laughing. We were, crying, tears coming out of our eyes. We were just rolling all over the place. It was incredibly funny. This was Ryan Reynolds doing his shtick at its best, just far superior than anything else he had done since Waiting. Nothing else came close. It just was just this was suited to him specifically. And you and I have talked about that before. When it comes to what I saw in Deadpool 2, instead of me going, ha 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 ha, really laughing really hard, at every joke that was out there, like you said, it was more of the same. And it was more like,
And they
and it just was not the same. It did not have the same
right.
hold on me, and it just really just was for me. It was just quite a step down. Not even in the same category or league as Deadpool 2, and that's a shame because there was only just a few moments where I was just like slight chuckling at best.
Yeah, and so, I'm curious what Disney's gonna do with this property going forward, but yeah, I wanted more from it and I didn't get that. But maybe next time we'll see what the future for Deadpool holds with Disney behind the wheel now.
Well,
Uh
you know what? Deadpool doesn't matter what we say. $700 million plus later, it
oh
says a
yeah,
lot
for
about where
sure.
the
Well,
series is going.
he's the kind of character that says what everybody is thinking, and that's there's been for some reason like comedians can't do that anymore, but Ryan Reynolds puts on a red costume with ninja swords and he can do whatever he wants to. So that's just it's the crudeness that society wants but won't admit to.
Pretty much, pretty much.
But
And it's the 80s all over again, but only in limited form.
right, right. I guess it's okay if you put on a mask, you know, and he's a burnt person, so he can say whatever he wants to and get away with it, I guess. But what is your number 9?
My number 9 is Aquaman. Aquaman just to me was a lot of popcorn fun. You know what? It didn't have the best storytelling out there, nor did it need to. James Wan said, "You know what? Let's turn up the fun to 10." And when it comes down to it, with all the CGI that was going on out there and all the stuff that was going on as far as with Jason Momoa's character, look, Jason Momoa just had to nail it with Aquaman as far as his character is concerned. Willem Dafoe, just all the other actors that are out there, Patrick Wilson, Willem Dafoe, Amber Heard, they just had to nail their characters and hang on for the ride, and that's all they did, and that's all they needed to do, and that's what exactly they did. It was a really fun ride from beginning to end, and just like I said, it's just a lot of fun. No, it's not Shakespeare. No, it's not high-end artsy entertainment. It is definitely just a lot of popcorn fun, but it is really, really good popcorn fun. And that's why I liked it at number 9.
Yeah, it was definitely it was a great movie. Like you didn't have to really devote your mind to it. You can just kind of watch it. And it was a visual feast. It was a good spectacle. It was, you know, like those night scenes in Avatar where they're just fun to watch, you know, and there wasn't and unlike Avatar, it didn't have a deep like there's not and another cool thing about it, not a lot of political stuff in there too, like you get in a lot of movies these days. So it's
Well, there was some statements there about as far as polluting the sea
oh
and
yeah,
too
but
much
I mean
war and all that. I mean, that
it's
statements were clearly made in
typical.
the film.
Yeah, but you don't you know, you're not diving into you know, this side of the political aisle or that side of the political aisle. It's mostly just environmental stuff, and that's typical of a Aquaman, even in the comic books. But no, this was a fun movie. I enjoyed it. I could go like I like this movie better than Jurassic World. Jurassic Park's supposed to be like that type of movie, you know, the fun movie you go to watch to just kind of unwind. And Aquaman kind of filled the void left by the Fallen Kingdom movie that I was hoping would come out. So good job, you know, and we'll get to that. That's actually somewhere on my list, but yeah, we'll
All
get
right,
to
well, let's
that
go with your number 8, my friend. Could that be on your list?
next. No, my number 8 is Little Italy with Hayden Christensen and what's Julia Roberts' niece's name? I always forget Emma Roberts. So that's it's just it's a fun movie. It's funny because it's got you know these two people their parents run competing Italian restaurants. So just seeing like all the hijinks they play on each other, like it's got some like romance cheese in it, but it's a pretty funny movie, and it's got you know it's a simple plot, simple character, simple development. You know what's gonna happen. It's like Love Actually to me. It's just a comfortable movie to watch, and I know that it did not I don't think it got a run in it got a short run in theaters, but I think it hit on demand pretty quickly. But no, I enjoyed it. I think Hayden Christensen's a better actor than people give him credit for. I think with Star Wars, he just got a bad script. So I'm hoping maybe one day we'll see more of him. But this was a pretty good little movie. Not a lot of depth to it. Easy to watch if you're looking for something to just a popcorn flick. Sit down on a Friday night. You know, soak yourself up in the couch for a bit. Little Italy is definitely something worth checking out. But what is your number 8?
Well, I'd love to say my number 8 is Vice, A Star is Born, or Paddington 2, which I know my eldest daughter, really just wants to go ahead and check out as soon as we can because we've heard such great things about it. It's been a lot of, believe it or not, a lot of top 10 and a lot of top 10 and top 25 lists out there. And I know my daughter and I really want to check it out soon. Paddington 2, for some strange reason, it's getting a lot of great press out there and a lot of great reviews as far as end of the year results out there. But those three aren't on my list because I didn't get a chance to see them yet. But one movie I did get a chance to see within the past couple of weeks that is on my list is at number 8, and that is Roma. And yes, it is an art film. And yes, you will be in the Oscar race. And yes, it might most likely will be a number one for a lot of critics out there. It is an artsy film. It is something that you're going to take in if you really want to enjoy it. But if you're not into those type of films, you're going to get sucked out of it right away.
That's on
Uh,
Netflix right now, right? If people wanna
it,
check
it,
it out.
that's correct. It is on Netflix. It is, I mean, subtitles you can get because it's all spoken word in Spanish. That to me, I actually did not have the closed captioning on. I did not have the translation on, and I just truly enjoyed it for what it was. And I cannot say enough about good things about it. It's a really visual type experience, even though it's black and white, because you see things from a perspective. Yes, in a lot of movies, you're seeing things from a perspective, and you're just like you're watching what's going on the screen, but you almost feel like you're just participating and you're just like right there within the action, and you're seeing things in the way Alfonso Cuaron is trying to see things, and it's just it just the way it's just shot was in many scenes was just truly something to behold. Just unique ways of using the camera I've just not seen in quite some time that I truly enjoyed that aspect of it. Yes, it does some things in there that are supposed to just get you thinking, get you talking, and are shocking at sometimes. But for the most part, it just tells a loving story between a housekeeper and the relationship she builds with the family that she works for. And in that sense, it's a really, a heartwarming story there. There is some tragedy involved. There is some NSFW content involved, but I tell you what, for the most part, it is an artsy movie. And if you're really into those type of small films, which really have a lot of big things to say, then Roma is for you. I didn't like it as much as a lot of those critics say. It's not going to be my number one choice coming out of the year, but I do see it picking up a lot of awards or a lot of recognition come uh, Golden Globes time, Oscar time, and Film Critics Awards times, and all that, because it is going to be a critical darling for a long time to come.
Yeah, I keep I scrolled past it a few times on Netflix and I keep wanting to watch it, but movies with subtitles I really got to be in the mood for. Like I can't do it when I'm tired. I got to sit down like with fresh eyes. Maybe in the morning I'll check it out, but it's definitely it looks interesting and we don't get a lot of artsy. I think the term artsy film is kind of underrated in the film industry. Everyone thinks they're being artsy, but it's big budget artsy, so you don't see a
This
lot of
is an art film. This is
yeah.
no question about it, and it's from a director who has done big movies before in the past. Alfonso Cuarón has a big name in Hollywood, so this was just something that a passion project for him. It's based in the early 1970s in Mexico. That type of lifestyle, it just tell you what, it portrays that vision of what's going on, possible revolution coming up, or and things of that nature. So it, it it tells a story that I think he wants to see from a time and a place that he might be familiar with. I think from what I'm reading and investigating, that he really does a great job in describing and shooting. But the actress involved, the main actress involved, she really carries the film and is the big reason why Roma is such a good film is because of her efforts.
Nice. Yeah, well, like I said, I do wanna check it out. It kinda reminds me of those old, like the Woody Harrelson directed movies, like with, I forget what the last one was called, but it's or like Midnight in Paris, stuff like that. Like, that's what it kinda reminds me of. So, yeah, definitely interested in that, and I'll check it out. It's on my list.
What's your number seven, my friend, on the list? Number seven of your top films in 2018.
I got Ready Player One. I know we talked about there's stuff about this movie we liked, stuff we didn't like. It was a good popcorn flick, and whether or not they did skip a lot of stuff from the book, but you kind of see why they did it. You kind of see how some of that stuff wouldn't have translated well to the screen. But I love the nostalgia. I loved seeing old games that I have played, old games that I haven't played. I like the scene with the Gundam, like seeing all this old pop culture stuff. Like this movie is the reason we do this podcast. So they took everything that I love and they put it into a movie. Granted, it was in a book already, but it was really cool to see all of this stuff come to life and just the CG and the references and all of it. Like it was very well done. The say what you want about the stuff left out of the books, but it's a movie. It's not a 30 chapter book. So I enjoyed it.
Uh, I'm not going to disagree with you, my friend. I mean, I have a review on popculturecosmos.com and popculturecosmos.wordpress.com on it that gave it a pretty good review, a 7.5 out of 10. I found the first sequence and the final sequence to be amazing as far as from a pop culture just explosion out there that I had to see to believe. And from the first part that really got me sucked in when they first puts on the glasses in the theaters, it just that immersion factor was right there for me. What took me out was the Stephen King references as far as to The Shining is concerned. Spoiler alert that both that Rob McCallum and I heavily disagree upon. Absolutely disagree upon as far as me saying that it's a big distraction and a big detraction from the movie, and him thinking it's the best thing in there. And I really think the stuff with IOI could have been much better constructed. I think that stuff when it comes to the real world and Columbus out there, I think the book fleshes it out a lot better than what the movie did. And Steven Spielberg, if he had to do it over again, I think that's probably the one area he would focus on more is the stuff going on in the real world of Columbus, and really making that a lot better and a lot more fleshed out, and maybe getting someone other than Ben Mendelsohn, because all Ben Mendelsohn does now is villains, and it's getting to the point where it's not he's doing a rehash of himself each and every time, and it's not good for his character. It's not good for his career or any character that he plays, because we always know he's going to be a bad guy, and he's always going to pretty much say the same and do the same things each and every time out. After guess what I'm wearing, Rogue One. So that's to me, those issues aside, I still thought the movie was just an outstanding visual feast when it comes to the first and third parts that definitely should not be missed.
Yeah, 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 there was a lot of stuff in the book that would have been really cool to see on the screen, like them breaking into his house and all that stuff. But uh, maybe when what's his that next movie, Space Invaders coming out, maybe they'll kind of take the feedback from Ready Player One and incorporate a little more into it. What is your number seven though?
Lucky number 7 for me is Black Panther, a really, really good Marvel movie. I am not going to be putting it at the top of my list like I know a lot of other individuals are, but I'll tell you what, it's not too far off. It's still a very good movie for me. The performances themselves were outstanding, and would to me really carry the picture is the motivation, and the cast itself was just truly outstanding and top notch. Steve Coogan's direction was also very, very good as well. Just overall, it was just a fun, enjoyable, meaningful, socially conscious adventure that tells a great narrative from beginning to end. I just didn't like the Black Panther versus Black Panther CGI fight at the end, which really did not look very good at all, in my opinion, as far as the CGI effects and whatnot. That kind of took me out, plus a little bit, couple other bumps in the way. But overall, it was a really, really good film. And I think people, if you've not seen it yet, you're crazy not to have. It really ties the Marvel Universe together just before the events of Avengers Infinity War really nicely. And I highly recommend going to see Black Panther as a very strong outlook for 2018 as something that's going to get a lot of notoriety and could be the first superhero movie that gets a lot of love late in the year or in the beginning of the year when it comes to critic awards and the Oscar awards itself.
So this is gonna make me wildly unpopular. I liked Black Panther, but it's not in my top 10 movies, and I don't think that it's worth. See, this is where I find common ground with a lot of Marvel fans, except for you, obviously. But I think that Black Panther was very well done. Is a very good movie. The cast was absolutely amazing, but it didn't for me. It didn't really go anywhere or do anything visually that other Marvel films hadn't already done. So I don't. I get why people like it and why it's getting such a big acclaim because like you said, it's 2018. It's very socially conscious, but as far as character development and visuals go, like it hasn't gone anywhere that say Avengers or Age of Ultron or Thor Ragnarok. Didn't break any ground that they didn't already break. So I like the movie, but I don't think that it's worthy of an award.
Like I said, it's the number 7 film for me of the year. I think it's going to get a lot of acclaim, and if it does get a big push as the first superhero movie to really get acclaim at the Oscars, so be it. And I think it's well deserving of it. What's your number 6 film, my friend? Number 6 on your top 10 films of 2018.
Another Marvel film here. I got Ant-Man and the Wasp. So this was one we talked about because it bridged the gap between Infinity War and the next whatever comes next. So it was good. It had, what's his name? Paul Rudd did really well in it. Evangeline Lilly was pretty good, and it kind of bridged all. It was simple. You walked in, it was simple, is entertaining. It went from point A to point B without diving down any rabbit holes. You can just kind of, as a good popcorn flick, you sit there, watch it. Didn't have to worry about anything. Tied up the strings you wanted it to tie up, and of course, had the after credit scene that delivered, and they already spoiled how that turns out in the Infinity War Part 2 trailer. So that's that's my list. I like seeing what happened to the mom in the film, and it really just it I don't know, it dived into an aspect of the MCU I was hoping they would explore more, and it did its part. And we found out what happened to Scott Lang while the Avengers were fighting in Infinity War, and uh, I'm excited to see where Ant-Man goes in Endgame. How did you feel about the movie?
I thought it was a really solid movie myself. A lot of fun to watch. Another great popcorn flick, and it just missed. I think I should have put it on my honorable mentions along with. I should have put it on my honorable mentions along with Game Night and Won't You Be My Neighbor. It is something that was probably around the 13, 14 area for me, but still a very solid and fun movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp. I like that. I'll probably watch it again at least a couple more times because it's a really lot of fun. Just, just very light, doesn't want to be, didn't want to be try to do anything it's that Avengers Infinity War was, because Avengers Infinity War obviously took a turn for the worse and turn for the dark at the very end. They wanted to provide something light that was, still somewhat meaningful and tied into the whole Marvel universe thing, and I'm happy that it had the success that it did. It'll never find the success some of the bigger movies in the Marvel universe will have, and even if they make another Ant-Man type movie, but it has its own niche and its own place. And I believe Disney and Marvel, for some reason, just truly love and have a place in its heart for Ant-Man and the Wasp, because the first one didn't do so hot, and it's on the lower end of success stories when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But they obviously have some place in its heart for Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's why they brought it out, and I'm glad this one did better. And I look forward to seeing another version coming up, maybe in about 3, 4, 5 years, of another Ant-Man and the Wasp coming to theaters, because this one was really just a fun popcorn flick and a nice change of pace from what was going on in the bigger part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All right, my friend, where are we at as far as number 6? I think it's my turn, is it? Is that correct?
Yeah, what do you got brewing at number 6?
Isle of Dogs, my friend. If you've not seen this movie, and you're probably a lot like other people out there, is because this movie went under the radar, didn't score a whole lot of money when it comes to the box office. I think like 30 or 40 million dollars worldwide. Just didn't make those kind of marks and headway out there in as far as the box office is concerned. But Paul Anderson's films really don't really score that well with audiences as far as from a box office standpoint, but they really just get their own niche as far as cult followings and cult fan favorites and whatnot. An Isle of Dogs, where dogs are sent off Japan and exiled onto their own island where they have to make do for themselves. That concept and the art style, as far as the animated style that they used in the film, is truly a lot of fun to watch from beginning to end. And you know what? Any film that recreates Edward Norton as a star after I don't know what he did wrong to make Hollywood angry, but it's finally nice to see Edward Norton come back in a strong performance again with Isle of Dogs. And I'll tell you what, it just really was an enjoyable film, and I cannot recommend it enough to anyone out there that wants to see a different type of film, but still yet have a place in its with its own type of animation and style.
That was on my list, and I never got around to seeing it because I think I forgot about it. So
And I should say Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson.
yeah, his movies are good. Moonrise Kingdom and the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Like those are all good movies. They're kind of cult movies, so you kind of don't hear
They're
they
out. They're movies that are out there, man. They're
yeah.
weird. They're different, but they're fun to watch.
Yeah, they're movies that, like, you hear about through word of mouth. You don't necessarily get a lot of marketing with them. Isle of Dogs, definitely wanna see that movie. Thank you for reminding me that it's on my list. So, uh, the claymation was good, all that stuff, pretty solid.
Absolutely, it was. And like I said, the visual look was really, really well done. It will not earn the top awards as far as the animation is concerned because I'm saving that for later on in our list. But it definitely will probably get a lot of consideration for a nomination for best animated film.
Nice, alright. Well, I am definitely going to check it out. Yeah, Edward Norton it's funny, what happened to Edward Norton? Uh,
Exactly, but he was good in this movie, and I'll tell you what, if you're an Edward Norton fan, I'm not necessarily. I appreciate him as an actor. I'm not going out of my way to see his films, but he was very good in this one. So I definitely enjoyed Isle of Dogs. Coming up next, we'll have our top 5 of the top films in 2018 when we return. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. All right, and we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's our top 10 films of 2018. Coming up later on in the hour is our worst films of the year and also our top 5 pop culture moments of 2018. My friend, I can't delay anymore. What is your number 5 film of 2018?
I got The Nun. I actually really enjoyed this movie. I didn't think I was going to. Thought it was gonna be another kind of cheesy horror movie, but it was a very good, yeah. Well, because we all remember The Conjuring too, like how when the nun popped out of the painting, like that was scary. So it's cool to go back into that world, see that whole origin tale and how it ties into the Conjuring films. It was spooky. It was genuinely spooky. The one thing I didn't like about it though is that how when movies try to tie into other movies, we see that with Marvel. Amazing Spider-Man did that, and that's why that whole series kind of tanked. But um, with the Nun, they tried to do that just because they're trying to make I imagine they're trying to make a sequel, and they kind of ruin that cool sense of closure you got originally. So that's my one complaint, but yeah, it's not just a horror movie, it's kind of a mystery film too, so you go along with the pastor and the lady I think the lady is actually supposed to be what's her name from the Conjuring series, so not 100% sure on that, I keep trying to find it on the internet, but, yeah, no, it was good, man, definitely good, it was you kind of learn what the nun is. Yeah, you learn about all that as the characters do, and that's the first time I'd ever seen that happen in a horror movie. And I think that's also James Wan. But yeah, definitely good. Did you have any interest in seeing that? I know we talked about it a bit.
I've seen bits and pieces of The Nun and also bits and pieces of the Conjuring franchise. I want to go ahead at some point in time and sit down and watch the entire thing from how it's laid out from the beginning because The Nun is the beginning, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, well, because I think that Annabelle actually takes place before the nun. I'm not 100% sure on that, but
But I like to go on the timeline and check that all out in its exact order.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I do wanna go back and do that eventually, but I think Annabelle takes place in the early 1900s as opposed to when the Nun is kind of more modern, so I don't know. It was filmed like an old movie, but then they show, like, modern Vatican scenes, so it's hard to know exactly where it is on the timeline, but, yeah, definitely go check this out. It's a good on if you're looking for a good horror flick, people still like to be scared, if I remember correctly, from working in the movie my days working in a movie theater. Yeah, check this one out. It's one I didn't think would make my list, and it did. But I ask you, Gerald, what is your number 5?
Well, my top 5, I could throw a blanket over them, and this time next week, I might give you 5 different another different answer, and for the next 5 weeks, I could give you 5 different answers because these 5 are razor thin close to each other. I was thinking one would be number five, five would be number one, three would be number two, two would number just all these are just so close to me as far as exactly what I think of them. It is just really that tight as far as the consideration is concerned. I really sweated over them for like 2 days thinking about the top five is concerned because all these films I think are pretty much the same to me. But I'm going to give at number five. I'm going to probably have to say right now, if you tested me, Mission Impossible Fallout. Just truly a great film in the Mission Impossible series. My second favorite of the Mission Impossible films, and a lot of people, and you wouldn't be wrong if you said so, are saying that it's the best Mission Impossible ever, and it's not even close. And if you're saying that, I'm not going to argue with you. For me, I kind of like the Mission Impossible, I think Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol a tiny bit better, but that's just me. But Mission Impossible Fallout is truly an incredible ride from beginning to end. Tom Cruise, what can you say about him, man? You can pick on his movies choices from time to time, but when it comes to the Mission Impossible franchise, he goes all out, does all those stunts, breaks his breaks his foot, which people have seen now as far as they've shown it all
He
over
also
YouTube now.
occasionally murders people with airplanes.
Exactly. So I'll tell you what, right now he cannot be stopped when it comes to Mission Impossible franchise. It reached heights box office wise it's never reached before. So the future is just going forward for this franchise. And I'll tell you what, it's all because of the fact that Mission Impossible Fallout is just a fun thrill ride from beginning to end. Your thoughts on Mission Impossible Fallout, my friend? Because I know I just enjoyed it from beginning to end.
Yeah, it's actually on my queue currently. So it's next. It was I had for somehow House with Clock in its Walls got put above Mission Impossible on my watch list. So I watched that instead of Mission Impossible. Mistake.
What the
But
in the oh my
yeah,
gosh,
I'm
man.
gonna watch it probably tomorrow, so we can have this conversation on the next episode we film. But I do want to see it. I haven't really been into the last two Mission Impossible films. I loved the third one just because I love the idea of like they're all chasing after something, but nobody really knew what it was. And Dustin Hoffman, he just rocked that movie. So I'm gonna check out the new
I mean, Philip Hoffman, Philip Seymour
Philip
Hoffman.
Seymour Hoffman. Sorry, I don't know why I get those guys confused, but yeah, I'm gonna check it out, and I'll get back to you on that for sure.
So what's your number four? What's your number four on the list, my friend, of the top movies of 2018?
Number 4, I got Venom. I actually like this movie a lot more than I thought I would, and I know we talked about it. We discussed this, and you aren't looking like you enjoyed it very much, but there's something about it, man.
I'm Eddie Brock. I'm Eddie Brock with my fake New York accent in San Francisco. I'm
Oh,
Eddie Brock.
did you actually watch it?
I watched quite a bit of it, but yes, it's.
I I liked it, man. I liked the dynamic between Venom and Eddie Brock. Yeah, it had a lot of gaps in it, but I wasn't going into it expecting it to rock my world intelligent, with in terms of intelligent storytelling. I watched it because I needed to, I needed to add it to my list of movies I watched. But this one I wasn't expecting to like it, and then I did. So I went in with almost zero expectations about what to expect, and I was pleasantly surprised by what I got. Yeah, there's a lot of gaps in story and character development and plot development. It's missing a lot of things, but it wasn't unbearable. It wasn't unbearable in the vein of like Green Lantern, if that makes sense. And it didn't have the weight of a greater universe on its shoulders, so we didn't have to worry about that. It's a standalone flick, and it's almost like Eddie Brock was or Tom Hardy was playing two people. It was fun to watch. Yeah, his New York accent's not the best, but it
And
was
he's in
something,
San
man.
Francisco, man.
I know, man, but like it was alright. Like, I honestly can't pinpoint exactly what I liked about this movie, but I did like it. Well, I mean, besides what you already stated, what's your big issue with the movie? Did you give it a chance, or did you go in wanting to hate it?
Maybe that's the case, but I'll tell you what, it's just I whatever I say, it doesn't matter because it's going to happen again with another Venom. Not only did it far surpass my expectations for it as far as from a box office standpoint, it far surpassed everyone's expectations thanks to the help of a China marketplace that just absolutely devoured Venom in record-breaking numbers. And we are going to see another Venom, more Eddie Brock. So if you thought his performance was lousy, Tom Hardy's, like I did, then there you go. But to me, because me that didn't sell it. I thought the corporation behind it, I thought that was just really just uh, the evil bad guy, the evil bad guy in it, because Venom is kind of like a bad guy, but the evil bad guy in it was just really just not that good at all. And I don't know, just uh, man, more power to you. I will not have the same arguments I will with you on King Arthur, because King Arthur was schlock at its highest. But Venom, I'll tell you what,
You're
I'm
wrong.
not gonna I'm not gonna argue with you, man. I'm not gonna argue with you on Venom because it's $800 million, man. So I'm not gonna argue with you on Venom. Even though I might think it's not a very good movie, I can't argue with you on it because it's $800 million
It
at
was
the
just
end of the day.
I mean, I would even go as far to say it was one of those cheesy movies that you go in just wanting to watch, you know? It didn't bring anything new to the table, didn't mess anything up. It just it existed, and it was a good I didn't regret spending 2 hours watching it.
All right. It comes to the next on our list is my number four, and my number four is Incredibles 2, which I think is almost as good. I thought it might be better at the time I saw it now, but upon thinking about it and actually just watching parts of it again and thinking to myself, you know what, this is just about as good, but not quite as good, but just about as good as a sequel can get to its original movie that was done so many years later. I love The Incredibles. Just truly, I think it's Pixar's best film ever, Incredible, and Incredible 2 is just a feather shade right behind it, along with Toy Story and a couple others. But Incredibles 2 isn't just a it's an incredible tale. Sorry to pardon the pun there, but it is an incredible tale from beginning to end about how it leads into Elastigirl's time in the sun, well deserved, and I think it just tells an awesome story, and I truly enjoyed it. I truly enjoyed the whole thing and the whole reimagining of The Incredibles. I was hoping for years that we would see a sequel, and I was not disappointed at all with Incredibles 2. I think it's just a really fun movie and one of Pixar's best.
Dag nabbit, Gerald, I completely forgot that I watched that movie. Jeez,
Oh
I that would have been
man.
on my list. It would have been on my top 10, so I'm just gonna agree with everything you just said. My only
Oh
complaint about
man.
it was that I did not like the mind control aspect of it. I know that it's supposed to be showing, like, there's I guess normal people can be supervillains. I don't know if that's was the theme they were shooting for in that one, but I feel like mind control is much like having a pet die in a movie. It's just a cheap storytelling. It's a lazy storytelling tactic, kinda like time travel.
Kind of like Captain America Civil War, if that's the case, and Daniel Bru's character over the Winter Soldier.
Yes, exactly.
But
But
go ahead, man. I enjoyed Incredibles 2 a
I liked
lot.
it. I liked it a lot, dude, and I like seeing, like, I loved how it picked up right after Incredibles 1. You got to see the aftermath of what happened. You to see Jack develop his powers, and that was kind of the best part of the movie is having them not so much them reacting to the villains trying to get them, but them trying to react to the villains, but also react to Jack. Like, there's a lot going on, but it was funny, and it had, like, gotta love Craig T. Nelson. Like, that guy is he owns that voice, and it is so good. I love the movie, and why we had to wait 10 years for that, I don't know, but I am hoping so much that they round it off by making it a trilogy.
I hope so too, and I believe strongly that that movie, Incredibles 3, would be a hit, and obviously would be something that is well worth watching, because Incredibles 2 was a tremendous sequel to the best movie Pixar has ever made. All right, my friend, top 3. So it starts off with you. What is your number 3 choice for the best in movies in 2018?
I can't remember if this is one that who I argued with about this one. This was a very divisive movie. Solo, a Star Wars story. I
It wasn't with me. I thought it was good, but not at your level.
Well, okay, so keep in mind though, I didn't see as many. I saw probably about 18 movies this year, so I didn't see as many as I normally watch. So that's why I was kind of cramming them all in at the end of the year here. But uh, no, it was a side of the Star Wars universe that I don't I don't really know much about, and it didn't hold itself accountable to with besides the parts with Darth Maul and all that, it didn't really hold itself accountable to the greater mythology of the universe, and it was fun, it was a fast-paced film. You got it kinda reminded me a little bit of, like, Cowboy Bebop, and, I have an affinity for that show, so it was a fun movie, man, like, and it had the seriousness of a it was, it had the seriousness of a Star Wars movie, but it also had fun elements to it, and those were things that we haven't been given in Star Wars, not in large doses, at least, so, and all the people giving I think Alden Emmerich, I think is his name, everyone
I didn't Ehrenreich.
yeah, everyone giving him, like, crap about, the way he portrayed Solo. He had, huge shoes to fill, and nobody in their right mind would be brave enough to try to fill those shoes, so I commend him, and I think he did a great job. The stuff with Chewie kinda seeing they developed Chewbacca, in a way that hadn't been done since, the battle on Kashyyyk and all that, so that was
And only Donald Glover can get away with falling in love with a robot.
Oh, yeah, for sure, and just the way he portrayed Lando, like, that was cool too, because we got to see things that had only been talked about in other films, and it's not like we were expecting this to have some big lore behind it, it just it it brought to life stories from old Star Wars movies, and it ended, and there wasn't exactly any, uh cliffhangers or anything. It's just kind of it was a solo story, and I really enjoyed it. I liked it. Everyone told me how bad it was, so I was going into it expecting to hate it, and I liked it. I was enamored by it from start to finish. But what did you think? Because I can't remember if we talked about this or not.
Well, you hadn't seen it, so I gave my review on the air of it. I think when it comes to the four movies that have been released now since the Star Wars has been rebooted, Force Awakens, Rogue One, which I'm wearing the shirt for, Last Jedi, and Solo: A Star Wars Story, I put all those in between the 7 and 7.5, where it's out of 10 type deal, where I just think they're pretty good movies, eh, eh, and because almost all of them, excuse me, in each of those movies, you've had tremendous highs and tremendous lows when it comes to the actual overall story arc, as far as the plot lines, the acting, and just the whole thing. There's been some really good moments in each film, and there's been some really lame, boring, or dull moments in each film as well. When it comes to Solo: A Star Wars Story, I think for me in the long run, that might be the best of the four so far. But that's still like again, like I said, around the 7.5 area. The first 10 minutes are god awful. That's on his home planet, him and Amelia Clark, they're on their home planet, and that's just god awful. That's
Had
just
a it
awful
had a
stuff.
it had a Blade
But
Runner vibe to it, like they were trying to be a movie they weren't.
yeah, exactly, and it just didn't feel. But as soon as he went to war with the Empire, and you see that scene where he tries to go ahead and he tries to leave and vacate, and gets captured and meets Chewbacca, and he also gets with the gang and the crew that tries to go ahead, and they're after a theft and whatnot. And once he starts getting to that, then it becomes a pretty good flick to watch. It becomes where the fact that it becomes a film where you just really start to enjoy watching it. Nothing too great, nothing too bad, just really good stuff along the way with little hints of Star Wars lore along, just enough to feed you from breadcrumb to breadcrumb. Like I said before, Donald Glover is absolutely brilliant as Lando. Just truly wished he was more in the film to me than he was. Alden Ehrenreich, I really liked his character, the way he attempted to try and become Han Solo. No, it doesn't. I guess you know what? I was watching Cinema Sins review it the other day, and I'll tell you what, he doesn't sound like Han Solo. He doesn't act too greatly like Han Solo, but he feels what he's doing in the movie feels like what Han Solo would have done at that point in time. And I think that's probably the best thing you can say about what Alden Ehrenreich did in the movie. No, he's not Harrison Ford, but he tried to do the best job he can, and I don't think he should be faulted for it in the slightest. And I think in his own right, he did a pretty decent job. Woody Harrelson did a solid job as well as Beckett. Emilia Clarke was all right as the female villainess in the movie, and the love interest, aka female villainess in the movie, as it turns out. Darth Maul references aside and all that other stuff aside, like I said, it was a pretty good movie overall, but it's a movie that really starts off bad, but once it finds its niche, once it finds its beat, it doesn't stop from there, and it stays. It knows what it does. It knows what it needs to do to get a get across to the viewers out there. And I think it's really a movie a lot of people missed. I'm sorry that it did so poorly at the box office in Star Wars lore. I know it's the worst movie box office wise, not even close when it comes to the Star Wars saga is concerned. And that's a shame because it doesn't deserve that fate, because there are far worse Star Wars movies out there that have been made that deserve that honor. And Solo, a Star Wars story, is not one of them. It's a pretty solid flick. And like I said, people should go ahead and go out of their way to watch it, because like I said, after the first few minutes, it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, it was very well paced, and it did what it needed to do. So, yeah. Other than that, what is your number three, sir?
My number three, and like I said, my top five, you could throw a blanket over them because they're all about the same to me. But number three was Spider Man Into the Spider Verse. I just had a chance to see it recently, and I'll tell you what, I said, first, I tell you, in September when we were previewing, I said, this is something I'm probably going to see on video. I think that's what I remember myself saying. I didn't think I was going to go into the theaters and watching it, but as I heard more good pub, as I heard more good press, as I began to see that this is something that even as someone who isn't a Spider-Man fan like me, I'm not a big Spider-Man fan. I'm going to go and check it out anyways. And boy, I was not disappointed in the slightest. The visual style and the animation style, with all due respect to my friend that works at Pixar and the whole great staff at Pixar, and also as well to the individuals that worked on Isle of Dogs and other movies that have done a great job of animated films. I'm sorry, Sony Animation is going to win the award for Best Animated Movie of the Year, because that style and that artwork that was done in the film truly is amazing. It's a great style, just like it lays itself out like a comic book, and is truly something to behold. It tells a great narrative and a great story. There's only a couple parts at the end where it comes to the finality of the villainous characters, Doc Ock and Kingpin. Some of the moves that they make and some of the things that happen to him at the end are a little bit perplexing, to say the least. They're like plot holes that are sticking out there. But other than that, Spider Man Into the Spider Verse is something a lot of people should get into, because it is truly one of the best films of 2018. Any
I
thoughts?
I do want to see it, man. I have not had a chance. So there's a few movies that I still want to see, before the year's over, but I might not get to see them until they hit digital or
Well,
Blu-ray or whatever.
you're a bigger Spider-Man fan than I am, and you need to go and check out this movie.
Yeah, no, I definitely I want to, and I want to see it in the theaters because I love the Spider-Verse story arc, and I love I love all the characters. Spider-Man Noir, Nicolas Cage, right? How was the voice of that character? Was it all right?
It was all right. He did a fair job at it. It sounded like he enjoyed it more than the execution, but it comes off okay. I will say that I did like this movie a little bit more than Spider-Man Homecoming, and that makes it for me the best Spider-Man film ever.
Oh, nice, man. That's pretty high praise. You know how I feel about Amazing Spider-Man, so there's that. But
This might compete with it. This might compete with it.
oh, dang, man. All right, well, I'm interested. I love the only Spider-Man that I wish they would have in the movie is Spider-Man. I want to say 2089 is the future Spider-Man. Like that, I always loved that comic arc. I think the guy's name was Miguel O'Hara. But yeah, dude, I definitely want to see this one. I love Spider-Man. You know, Spider-Man's one of my favorites. Ultimate Spider-Man's my favorite comic book of all time besides Hellboy. So it's on my list, dude. I do want to see it. I'm glad you liked it. So if you're giving it high praise, and we have our opinions on Spider-Man movies have been more or less on track with each other before. So if you're digging this movie, it's probably something I do want to see.
So we're down to our top two, my friend. I want to hear it from you. Top two. What is your number two on your list of the top films of 2018?
Okay, so my number two, it's not really anything we need to talk about because we already covered it. It's Aquaman. I I liked it, and I already said everything that we could say about it, and it was I think that the acting was good. It was a good visual spectacle. It didn't there wasn't really a lot to worry about as far as tie-ins with the Justice League, just that brief mention of fighting Steppenwolf, and it's cool to see the Atlanteans in the way that I think that was the way they were portrayed in Justice League, right? When they're showing them protecting the cube. So it's cool to kind of see that culture on the screen. Like I said, I just want to see how it ties into a greater universe. Are they, because these movies with Jason Momoa and Gal Gadot feel kind of pointless if the rumors are true that they're just going to reboot everything. So I think Warner Brothers needs to get their act together and figure out what they want to do. But good movie, and I hope I hope that Jason Momoa gets to stick around for a sequel.
I know when we were talking about our review last week, I said that I thought that Aquaman was a really fun movie and a fun popcorn flick. And I did make it on my top 10 list as well. If you remember, I put it number nine. The only thing was the detraction I should have mentioned was that effect. It doesn't tie itself into a larger narrative really that much. Amber Heard does tell or does speak to Jason Momoa's character about what he did last year with Steppenwolf, so it ties into a little bit there, and they give some little subtle things during the course of the picture, but there's no overall story arc that's going to, at this point in time, lead too much into a larger narrative when it comes to the DC universe, including the end credit scene. So that part I'm disappointed with. But other than that, like you said, it's just truly a fun popcorn flick. And you know what? Just shut your mind off when you just go and just enjoy it for what it is. Just it's a fun superhero flick, and that's all it needs to be. And it did a good job with that.
All right, so what do you got sitting tight at number two?
Speaking of superhero flicks, there was none larger this year than Avengers Infinity War. And for me, Avengers Infinity War was truly something that hit on all levels. It needed to do a lot. And the Russo brothers were tasked with trying to tie in 10 years worth of Marvel movies. They were given a bigger task than any directors I think have ever been given doing a movie. It just, okay, Disney, Marvel, they come to them and they say, look, we need you to tie in all these other movies that we've made, including the ones that you've made, and tie them all into one larger narrative when it comes to the first part and the second part, which is coming next year, of course, in Avengers Endgame. But it all leads into this one because this is the most important of the two films because this is the one that's supposed to buy you in. This is the movie that's supposed to get you to want to see Endgame. If this movie is a stinker, then you know what? Unfortunately, you're not going to want to see Endgame. That'll be the Endgame for Endgame. So, Avengers Infinity War had so much writing on it, so much depending on the future for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it paid off, and it paid off in spades. I'll tell you what, the Russo brothers did an outstanding job with what they had to deal with. Is it the perfect picture? No. I'm sure they could have done a little bit tweaking here or there, but the overall just action galore, a lot of characters get their time in the sun. Just want to go ahead and give them another shout out because they were able to go ahead and try and at least from all appearances give Endgame the start it needed by making an incredible adventure from beginning to from the first part of it where Thor's ship is attacked to the end when all of our favorite heroes get, like a Kansas song, become like a Kansas song and they're dust in the wind. And I'll tell you what, it's just right now, Avengers Infinity War is the movie I think that really people will look back upon as tying this whole thing together as far as the Marvel Cinematic Universe and doing such an incredible job in doing it. My hat's off to the Russo brothers for making, for me, and I thought it was until last week, well, until a few days ago, was for me the number one movie of the year in Avengers Infinity War.
All right, well, two birds with one stone. That's actually my number one pick. So good job with
Oh,
the spoilers, man. Jeez, it's all dust, right? Yeah,
dust in the wind. All we are is dust in the
that
wind.
song always makes me think of Old School after Blue dies. You're my boy, Blue.
Well, I
Um,
know, but now it's going to make me think of Avengers Endgame
oh dang, man. No, yeah, the
or
Russo
Avengers Infinity War, I should say.
Infinity War. Russo brothers did a great job. Every character felt well fleshed out within the span of the 2.5 hours the movie lasted. Gave you
I
plenty
think
of
Winter Soldier. If anyone got a short the end of the stick, I think it's
yeah.
Winter Soldier.
Well, because it was such a big deal that he was in Wakanda, and then they didn't give him the screen time he deserved. So everyone's like, "Oh, White Wolf," because that was the end credit scene in Black Panther, and they did not really elaborate on anything. They just gave him a new arm, gave him a gun, gave him a couple one-liners with a rocket, but that was it, man. And I was disappointed in that because he is one of my favorite soldiers, not soldiers, characters currently in the MCU. Uh, but yeah, it was the movie was great. Like I love the opening scene. I love seeing the Hulk fall down to the earth and seeing like the battle scenes were cool. It felt like its standalone movie leading into something bigger. So yeah, it was is everything you said. Excellent movie, very well done. It was on a on a is huge. It's a huge movie, a lot of moving pieces, and it was done on a scale that I've never seen before, and that was really cool. So definitely looking forward to Endgame. But Gerald, what is your number one movie?
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but my number one movie of the year, and again, my top five are really close together. And my number one movie this year is not quite as good as Blade Runner 2049, but it is still an outstanding movie nonetheless. And it is the best movie I have seen in 2018. I cannot believe I'm saying this. Crazy Rich Asians, man. I'll tell you what, Crazy Rich Asians is my number one movie of 2018. It's a rom com. I am the guy who has just laughs at rom coms because they're bad. I mean, look at it, almost destroyed Catherine Harold's career. Catherine Harold's career. Matthew McConaughey's career almost went in the toilet because of all the rom coms he was doing. I mean, those films were just nauseatingly bad. Rom coms have just such a bad tinge to it, and so many tropes. I mean, anybody when I see anybody turning to the Hallmark Channel and watching those, paint by numbers, color by numbers, 1, 2, 3, dude falls in love, always something going wrong, girl falls in love later on, then they fall in love together, end of story type deals that you see on the Hallmark Channel. I just go like, why are you wasting your time? Like, just these rom-coms are just, over the years, I've just been nauseating to me. And Crazy Rich Asians, I checked that out the other day, and I tell you what, it makes a lot of those tropes into and weaves it into the narrative of Crazy Rich Asians, but it does it better than any one of them, and is by far and away the best romantic comedy I've ever seen in my life. I cannot believe I'm saying those words. It's just truly incredible. Just that the emotions that come out of you, both good and bad. It's a pretty funny movie, but it just brings out more emotions besides happiness. Just the fact that you've seen these things before in other movies, but it just does it so much better. Yes, it deals with a type of culture that maybe a lot of people aren't familiar with. I'm truly saddened that the Chinese culture themselves didn't want to attach themselves and go out and see this in any big numbers because it was a big flop in the Chinese marketplace. But I can also see why it was such a huge success everywhere else, because it's some part of the world that a lot of people aren't familiar with, that they wanted to get familiar with. Are a lot of these characters accentuated and maybe turned up to a level 10? Yes, they are. But I'll tell you what, it just makes this movie so much more enjoyable. It does give you a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of a world that you may not be familiar with, but it also, first and foremost, tells a love story that's not going to be derailed no matter what is thrown at it. And to me, like I said, there are tropes in there that are not unfamiliar to me that I've seen 1,000 times before, but to me it has never been done better than Crazy Rich Asians. And I cannot believe I'm saying this, but it is the best movie I have seen of 2018. Not by much. Check me out next week. And you might, if you ask me next week, I could say it's Avengers Infinity War. I could even tell you it's Mission Impossible Fallout. But as I'm recording this, it's Crazy Rich Asians for 2018.
That's not actually that weird because I have heard great things about that. I'm on the fence about whether or not I'm gonna watch it. I probably will just one day out of boredom. I'll watch it, but yeah, it's interesting how we can take a formula that is tried and true, and then we can burn out on it, and then you approach it from a different perspective, and all of a sudden it feels fresh again. So
Exactly. That's exactly how I felt as I was watching it.
but that makes me wonder, like, if we applied a similar thing to, like, Raunch-coms, would we be able to revive American Pie type movies if we did them in a different culture? It's just a very fascinating thought to me. But,
You never know. You might have something there.
yeah, you really don't know, but, yeah, I've heard great things, and I've even heard great things about this from people who are in that culture, so that tells me that there's a lot of care went into that movie. I know it's based on a book. I don't know if there's multiple books, but
There is.
I
There is.
don't so I don't imagine with the success of this movie that they wouldn't be planning on making a sequel, so,
They already signed the director for a sequel.
hey, there we go, there we go. So, um, yeah, I mean, and it's cool too because like, a lot of these actors, they get typecasted. And that's always made me sad because there's a lot of brilliance out there, like Chow Yun-fat, brilliant, Donnie Yen, like, I always really loved a lot of these guys, but you only ever see them in kung fu movies. As much as I love kung fu movies, I'm totally guilty of that. It would be cool to see them in something else, to see them do something else,
Well,
besides
you'll see it with
people.
Michelle Yeoh, who is known as an action
Crouching
star,
Tiger.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Yes, she steals the show as the mom and the matriarch in the film, and she does an outstanding job of carrying the film every time she's in every scene she's in.
Yeah, yeah, cool, man. Well, that was our top 10 films. You had some ones I forgot that I wanted to see, so I'll be keeping busy this week.
What are your thoughts out there on the best films of 2018? Do you like our list? Do you have any yourself to pick? And what is your number one choice for the best film in 2018? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. When we return, we'll quickly run down our worst films of 2018 when we return. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. Don't worry about the top 5 moments in pop culture in 2018. We'll record that at another time
All
because I
right,
know you're
man.
dying.
Yeah, no worries, dude.
And we're back with the show once again. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford along with my good friend Josh Peterson. If you haven't heard if you need a listing of where we're at anywhere in the world, because we get played on over 15 different stations around the world, 7 days a week, check out our listings on Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, and also check out the great things going on in Humanica Media. Speaking of which, my friend, what is coming up in 2019 that you can tell us with Humanica Media?
I got a lot of things I want to do. I'm kind of in the midst of scripting out I want to make Vendetta Dark an audiobook, so that'll be kind of up on the project list. And also I want to do we're working on a documentary, Sega Forever, currently collecting cartridges, and we have another kind of mockumentary film that we're making called The Last Land Party, which I'll put some more details out about that soon. It's just a matter of filming it at this point so we can put out some trailer materials. So stay tuned. We'll have a lot coming out, maybe some new podcasts. Definitely Topic Ocalypse will keep going, and we're hoping to build some things going into 2019. But time, man, it's all about time and organizing it. I don't want to have a bunch of fires burn at once and I can't focus on any one of them.
I hear you on that, man. Plus, you're also doing with the PCC Gamescast and everything else here for as well for the Pop Culture Cosmos. So before we head on out, my friend, what were the worst movies for you in 2018?
Sorry. Okay. Worst movies. Pains me to say this because I know there's good intention behind making it. 1517 to Paris. It just the acting was just almost too much for me. I know that was a Clint Eastwood movie, and you know I love Clint Eastwood, love Clint Eastwood movies, but this one, well, I love that he got the actual people to do, and he tried to fill it, give Marines something, or Army people something to do. That was definitely I loved where his heart was at, but it wasn't executed very well, and the acting did get better as the movie went on, but it was noticeable through the whole movie, so it was kind of hard to watch at certain parts. Next one would be Annihilation. Still not sure how I felt about that one, but it's just not one that I would recommend to anybody.
After all these months, yes, you feel the same way. Is that you don't know how to feel?
I don't know how to feel. Yeah. I got Super Troopers 2 was pretty bad, but I mean that's to be expected from a Broken Lizard movie. It's funny, but it's bad. Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, definitely pretty low on my favorite film list of the year. So there's that. And the Meg, I wanna talk about the Meg. Okay, the Meg was entertaining, I didn't hate it when I came out, but it was like a B grade horror movie on Netflix though, you were watching it because it was bad. So, the fact that you don't hate it coming out doesn't actually mean anything for something like that. My last one would probably be Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Was expecting so much from that movie, and it did not deliver on anything. But special shout out to that, my special mentions for my favorite movies, The Predator and Constantine: City of Demons. Like those were two that I didn't get to watch till the end of the year, but I actually like them quite a bit, and I didn't they weren't good by any stretch of the imagination, but The Predator felt like an old Predator movie to me, and that's kind of what I wanted to watch from it. But what are your flops, man?
Well, my flops start off with Pacific Rim Uprising. What a just a horrible way to go ahead and just slam on excuse me, slam on just Guillermo del Toro's great and a lot of very fun first film. Pacific Rim Uprising was just a rancid sequel, boring throughout. John Boyega, okay, I understand you're cashing in from your Star Wars success, my friend, and you are an excellent actor, and I've seen you do good work. This is not one of your good works, and this is not one of your good films. And unfortunately, the way they tied it in to previous characters who now become villains, that was awful. And that part just sent me into another direction. And just really overall, just the lack of cohesion in the storyline as well just made it just a dull thing to watch from beginning to end, and that's why Pacific Rim Uprising is number 5 for me. Even worse was Skyscraper, which to me was it wanted to be Die Hard. It tried
Can't
very
believe
hard
you
to be
actually
Die
watched
Hard.
that movie, man.
What?
Do you actually watch that movie?
I watched that
Mm,
movie.
good for
Unfortunately, I
you.
cannot take 2 hours of my life back from it. So, unfortunately, this was one of The Rock's worst outings. And lately, he's had a lot of very subpar performances. And this one is just maybe the worst of all of them. Okay, maybe Baywatch for a lot of people, but for me, or maybe Rampage. But Rampage was pretty bad in and of itself. But Skyscraper for me is really just the fourth worst movie of the year, and it could be even lower, but there were some really big time poops on this list. So Skyscraper wanted to be Die Hard, unfortunately, not even close to being Die Hard. Number 3 on my worst of list, Tomb Raider. Oh, if you thought the first two Tomb Raiders in the early 2000s with Angelina Jolie were cheesy and popcorny, but were passable at best, or we're not even good at all, you know what? This is like below them. And Alicia Vikander, she deserves a lot better than being in this trash because this trash was just goodness awful. from just the whole thing as far as the way they try to reenact it and make their own type of storyline that still how somehow blends in from the rebooted video game, which we spoke of so highly on the multiverse as far as the original reboot of Tomb Raider. Yeah, it stunk and it's bad and it's really the curse continues for the video game genre on film, and it definitely continues after the poor performance of Tomb Raider. Number two, I so wanted this to be number one after I was watching about an hour and a half in, but there is a movie worse than this one, and that is Fantastic Beasts: Crimes of Grindelwald. It is just pure garbage from beginning to end. I cannot agree with you more on my friend. What a disappointment for someone who is not a Harry Potter fan. My whole house is, but I'm not the Harry Potter fan, even though I've seen quite a bit of the movies. And tell you what, I really liked the first Fantastic Beasts movies, but and I was starting to get involved and more in tune with the Harry Potter universe. I was thinking about reading the books and getting more involved with that. And you know what? Fantastic Beasts: Crimes of Grindelwald comes around, and it takes me right out of it. And this movie was awful. The motivations behind the characters, especially at the end. Why is this person going with this person? Why is this person going bad? Why is this person going good? Why is this individual not being with this person? Why don't you start telling the love stories that you were once going leading into in the original movie? What happened to all those storylines? Are that did you just decide to go ahead and put them on hold? The good things about Fantastic Beasts, you decided to just almost ditch entirely in this movie and create something where it was just Johnny Depp trying to hold the film together, and unfortunately he didn't do a good enough job of doing that because this movie was just oh, two and almost 2.5 hours of my life wasted because of it. So you know what, Fantastic Beasts: Crimes of Grindelwald, downer. Sorry, JK. Sorry, JK. It was a downer for you. And hopefully, you're going to be able to make it a lot better for the next three movies, I guess, you have signed for when it comes to the Fantastic Beasts series. And last but not least, the worst movie of the year for me was actually a movie that was supposed to be on the big screen, but the smartest individuals of the year are the people behind the production companies behind the Cloverfield Paradox who decided to not put this movie on out on the big screens and put this out there and distribute it out there. They are the smartest people in the world for 2018 because you know why? Because they didn't put it out on the big screens. They actually put it on Netflix. They did a huge surprise commercial at the Super Bowl, and they made a lot of initial views for it and got their money back, I'm assuming. And Netflix was happy. You know what? The only people that weren't happy were the viewers of this turd. And I'll tell you what, Tyler Baker, he wanted to give it a pass and whatnot. But my friend Tyler, I'll tell you what, this is just an awful, awful science fiction movie. Sends the Cloverfield series down into the toilet. It is just awful viewing. I cannot stand it, and I never want to see it again. That is the Cloverfield Paradox. Ugh. Daniel Bruhl, who did such a great job in Alienist, did such a horrible job amongst other actors in this movie. I feel for you, man. I feel for you. Hopefully, this could be like just some like little small red in your ledger, as they say, as Black Widow would say, and hopefully you can get a lot better things going down, including a sequel to The Alienist. Because while The Alienist was your best thing that happened to you this year, the Cloverfield Paradox was by far the worst, and everybody involved with it should be just like maybe just like forget about it as best they can. You know what? Again, the smartest people in the world were the people who decided to go ahead and make the call to put it on Netflix and not in the movie theaters.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I never watched it. I wanted to. It's on Netflix, and then you said it was on my queue, and then you said some not flattering things about it. So I was like, maybe I'll skip out on this one. I didn't see Cloverfield Lane. My brother told me it was bad, which is weird because I really loved the first Cloverfield movie, and I loved the what they did with it. And I like seeing, now famous actors in that movie run for their lives. But yeah, I wish that if they're gonna make more Cloverfield movies, stop being all, you know, artsy about it and just make a sequel to the Cloverfield movie because we all want to know what happened. Just go there. Why bother, dumping all this money into things that people, if modern cinema has proven anything, it's that people do not like experimental films. And that's kind of what they're trying to do with Cloverfield. So I hope that if they're going to make another one, they just go back and make a sequel to the original one because I do everyone who watched that movie wanted to see more of it. And it seems at this point it would be a stupid idea not to give them what they want. But that's just me. Um yeah, man. Well, any closing thoughts here?
If you have thoughts on the worst movies of 2018, did you like what we thought about our list of 2018, or do you have your own worst pictures of 2018? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, we made it through the best and worst of 2018 as far as films are concerned. Any last thoughts on the way out?
No, it's just, starting January 1st, we'll have a whole new bucket of films to watch and judge and talk about. So, jeez. Sorry. Stay tuned. Next year's episode will be better.
Hopefully, it will be with a lot of great films coming up in 2019. So, for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening, and a big shout out for those who are watching too, as well. And here's hoping you have yourself a great